crypto lifestyle, baby.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another live stream interview on the channel where the most coin is being banked, period. But in today's show, we will be sitting down with Oscar, who is the co-founder of Convergence Finance, which is a project that will be tokenizing real-world assets through the power of blockchain technology, which in turn will provide greater liquidity, transparency, and inclusion for all investors in a decentralized way. But hey man, don't take my word for it, because Oscar will be telling us all about this. Well, Oscar, thank you so much for coming onto the program and making this interview happen, boss man.
Thanks for having me here. Pleasure.
You're most welcome, Oscar. You're most welcome. You know, Oscar, here on the Crypto Lifestyle, we have a very highly engaged community. We call them the TCLers. And as you know, we are broadcasting live on good old YouTube. So do allow me a moment to take a moment to say hello to our fans and viewers in the live chat. Okay, so what do we got here? Oh my god, you guys, it's already crazy. Alright, so we have Adrian, Gustavo, Thomas, they can't wait to see what Convergence is all about, Oscar. We got Bernard, we got Fraser here. Wow, everybody's here, and I'm sure there's a lot more people to come, man. So you know what, Oscar, let's kick this off the old-fashioned way, right? The good old tradition way. And why don't you just go about telling us a little bit about yourself, your professional background, rather, and how you actually got into this crypto space.
Yeah, sure. So I've been spending the last few years in the tokenization space. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Liquidity as well, which is the leading security token issuance platform in Asia. We have offices in Hong Kong and a joint venture of the royal family of Dubai. So we have been really active in the space for quite a while. Prior to that, I was a global market analyst in Deutsche Bank, working in Singapore and Hong Kong after graduating in NYU Stern with a bachelor's in finance. I'm also a co-founder of an investment vehicle called Dow Ventures. We invest in early stage blockchain startups, and a venture partner of Exoncy Ventures, which is a vehicle by NBA Brooklyn Nets star Spencer Dinwiddie. So I've been in the space since kind of mid or early 2017, really engaged, really think blockchain is fascinating. It's going to change the financial industry. So with the Convergence, I'm bringing my expertise in traditional finance and bringing it to the DeFi space.
Interesting. Thank you so much. So that's a wealth of experience you got there. I'm glad to see people actually have experience before they come to this space. There's a lot of projects out there that, you know, they just want to try to get something for somebody, if you know what I mean. But everybody wants to know what exactly is Convergence, right? It's very fascinating in my humble opinion, but please drop some knowledge and enlighten the viewers. What exactly is Convergence?
Sure. So this idea, we had it for a while because being in the security token space, we realized one of the key issues facing it is secondary market liquidity. It doesn't matter if you can have fraction ownership when you can trade in and out anytime you want. So the Convergence protocol is actually the first real-world asset exposure platform that can interchange with different assets. And so basically we connect real-world asset exposure with utility token in a single kind of interface, easy to use. For layman terms, you can think of the launchpad as kind of like a poker starter for initial offerings or real assets. And then we directly have liquidity on the Uniswap AMM platform. That way, we basically bridge the whole gap from start to finish. We also have a token wrapper module to create real-world asset exposure with wrap tokens. So if you think of it this way, we're offering unicorn shares, exciting companies. Think of a time where if you can swap Dogecoin with SpaceX shares, how cool would be that? Maybe Flow for Dapper Labs. So you name it, any of these companies we'll try to bring into life.
That is pretty cool. So is this like a version of, you know, there's a lot of synthetics out there, kind of like you'll see Wrap Bitcoin on Uniswap, you know, versions of even Wrap Ethereum. Is this like, you know, is it a synthetic or is it the actual representation of this real world asset that's just tokenized?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're a little different than synthetic asset protocols, where they have a price oracle and use a peer-to-pool concept where you're making gains from that protocol. What we have here is actual exposure. We're structured in a way where some vehicle is holding the actual private shares, so that when it goes to a liquidity event like going IPO, then the proceeds goes back to the token holder. So there's no need to bet against the pool if you're actually owning the underlying.
Interesting stuff. So I guess you already are like this is a market and industry that you're already connected in. I should imagine. Is this something like
Yes, for
in?
sure.
Are you guys prominent in Asia? Is it or how does that those connections work there?
Yeah, so Asia is definitely a big space for family offices getting access to these deals. But globally, we target an industry that is very exclusive, where institutional and family offices also usually have these deal flows until it goes IPO. And the interesting fact is now you look at the stock market, once a really hot tech stock goes IPO, it goes 50 to 100%.
Hmm.
Think about it going earlier. Think about it, if I used Uber and Airbnb, 5, 10 years ago, could I invest in that? And that's where some of those VC funds are getting into, and this is what we want to open up to the Convergence protocol.
Very, very fascinating stuff. That opens up a whole new different world into the crypto space, man. Yeah, that definitely spikes interest in me. I was on your website and I saw the term called interchangeable assets. I think that could be somewhat of a gray area for the viewers. Could you just explain, in much better detail, what is interchangeable assets and how does that work, please?
Yeah, so the vision is from Convergence is to bring all sorts of assets onto the blockchain. We started with the pre-IPO shares because it's a very attractive, very short time frame. The risk rewards profile is great, but we also want to bring some of the more kind of niche things like venture capital fund, private equity, NFT artwork, and exotics. Like those are all assets that we want to eventually have it on our platform. And interchangeable meaning that anything you can switch. Let's say you have an NFT artwork, you can switch it for kind of private shares of a company. And how that works is that when you have an AMM pool, as long as there's a path, you can connect it and you can switch directly. The middle part, you kind of buy ETH and you switch ETH for something else, and so on and so on. But simple interface, basically you're switching one thing for another.
Interesting. So is this like okay? So pretty much, if I had I don't know, let's just say Ethereum or whatever token X, that's a cryptocurrency, I can actually trade that or swap that for some sort of like real world asset that's tokenized, like just in one pair.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So as long as we create a liquidity pool, and how we kind of do it is that we have a big liquidity pool for one of the more major utility tokens, and then we have a bridge pool, so then it connects to the wrap security token pools.
I love that, man. I love that. Very, very fascinating stuff there. Very thought provoking in the sense of to come up with such an idea. That's really cool. We're gonna take one live question right now, if you don't mind, Oscar. Let me just see
Yeah.
who we got here. So, okay, we got one here. We got quite a few actually. So Anthony Martin asks, "What is the real potential of security tokens considering the current market conditions?" So I guess he's talking about like in correlation to the market is right now. That could be a bull market or any sort of market that might go south.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the crypto bull market, they're seeing incredible returns on their investments, but eventually some of them do take it out and put back in the real assets because they just want to diversify. They don't want to have a lot of exposure just on crypto. What Convergence provides is that you can already swap your crypto gains or cryptocurrencies into other real world assets and be exposed to less volatile asset class. For me, I'm a big believer in blockchain cryptocurrency, but at the same time, I have a diversified portfolio of different investments. So then, when there's a bull and bear market, the portfolio will naturally hedge itself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. One last one here by Credo. Community is very important for every project. Do you plan to be a local or global project? What strategy will be used to expand the community?
Yeah, so with crypto projects, it's always global. It's always about addressing everyone's needs. In different countries, the lack of access to good investment opportunity is very evident. But at the same time, we have to be local to be global. So we have a lot of localized community in China and Vietnam and Turkey and Russia. And foreign languages community will set it up so that they can understand what we're doing and expand from there onto a global project.
Exactly. You said the best, man. Crypto is global, right? I like local is global. I like that. That's a good one there. Okay, so this is one of my personal questions. So, how does Convergence even have the ability to tokenize real world assets? Like, are you already in talks with industries, as you already said? But I mean, like, just to take that leap there, right? That could be somewhat audacious, so to speak. So how do you even have the ability to do such things? And if you could give a real world asset example, that'd be great.
Yeah, so this comes from my experience co-founding Liquify. We've been doing a lot of education on what tokenization is and how it works. And for Convergence, it's taking that one step further. We work with not only Liquify, but global tokenization partners that are expert in this space, work with law firms to structure it in the right way. So then there's a vehicle, there's an entity that holds underlying shares. And then from there, we create the exposure to real world assets to the tokens. And how this naturally goes backwards is that once there's liquidity event, as I said, IPO, or even for a VC fund, the time period is up, then you cash out of your proceeds, right? You sell the shares of whatever you invested in, and those get distributed to the token holders.
Very, very interesting stuff. So you mentioned IPO. Is that something that potential investors will get access to, or that's just not on the radar right now?
For us, we're focusing on private markets, so pre-IPO is our focus. Things that will go IPO soon, hopefully within a 1 to 2 year horizon. These are very kind of exotic products, very interesting for institution to get into, and we just want to open that up and have a fair playing field for everyone involved.
I like that because it really does make all investors included, right? And like have direct access to these real world assets that they probably couldn't get access to in the crypto space or maybe in other markets. So that's really, really cool stuff. Yeah, and that also brings a lot of liquidity too, right, to these assets. So that brings me to my next question, Oscar. It's in regards to wrapped security tokens. I noticed that this on your website. Could you explain this for us, please, if you don't mind? The WST.
Yeah, so wrap security token is just using our wrapper module. We call it wrap because it's kind of an easy lingo for people to understand in this space. You have Bitcoin, you have wrap Bitcoin, with wrap security token, just so all of them can be freely traded on our AMM platform. The difference between that and kind of security token is that you are not owning the underlying shares per se. You're owning the exposure, and so you don't go through the usual checks that security tokens go through.
Gotcha, gotcha. So this is just a little clip here on the website for people to see the visual there. There's the swap factor there. Cool, cool, cool stuff. So essentially, once again, we go back to this, right? It's pretty much like you said, let's just say SpaceX or whatever it is. You got that there. It's actually the real value of what that will be worth on, I don't know, wherever it's being traded in New York Stock Exchange or whatever. Is that how it is? The actual dollar value, it just tokenized in this wrap security form?
Yes. So what I mentioned is, SpaceX, they're not publicly traded, so for you to kind of get access to it is kind of impossible. But we work with asset owners that have those shares and will be willing to tokenize it and put it on Convergence, and so then they're selling off their shares. So most of them, probably got it very early, don't mind cashing out a little bit. They're still probably holding a bunch of it, and people in the DeFi space can buy into it. And I think the earlier example I gave, buying the Airbnb and Uber early, that's something that I wish I had the opportunity to do. For me, that's kind of the play. Living in New York back then, those were really hyped up tech companies that I use daily, and so I feel like that's something that's missing, and I think people, especially the DeFi community, should have access to that.
Well, speaking of having access to something early, people will have access to Convergence very early. And also, speaking of people, I actually have a question here from one of the community members, which is by Sergio1970, who asks, my question for Convergence, where do you see the project and the tokenized asset in the next 5 years? Which problems and obstacles will the sector of tokenization have to get over?
Yeah. I think there's twofold. I think naturally we are bridging the DeFi space in real assets, but we are targeting specifically very exclusive offerings. And I think that's because we feel there's a need for this market that's inaccessible. But then within 5 years, we hope that many of them will be digitally native, home ownerships, fund ownerships, everything will be digitized. So then you don't have to go to kind of a lawyer's office to sell something. Everything will be in your wallet and will be tradable. And furthermore, we can put it even as collateral. DeFi is very good at kind of using collateral as one of the mechanisms to borrow different assets. But it's very easy to see the value of Bitcoin. But if we have other real assets that you own right now and can borrow it to buy different cryptos, that's amazing for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. My next question is actually something that I really want to know. But before I get to that, I just want to say a big shout out going out to all the newbies out there, all the TCLers, the BHBers, the whales, although I hate you guys. But hey, at the end of the day, even the fudders, you got a big shout out to the fudders. At the end of the day, we're under the same empire, under the same building, so we might as well get along with each other. Oscar, there's so much tribal people in this space. Why can't we just get along together, man? You know what I mean? We should be happy that we got this. We should be happy that we got this blockchain technology that's uniting us. Meanwhile, we're tribal, talking about which coin's better, and the banks are laughing at us. I don't get it. So
I don't get it either.
Right?
I think it's very, very great that like the crypto community comes together. There's all these new technology, things to try out, and some works, some doesn't, but at least everyone's kind of trying to improve on the decentralization movement. So I appreciate all the effort that people put into this space, and that's what attracted me to begin with, to start kind of pivoting my career from traditional finance to blockchain.
Love it, man. Love it. I'm glad we're on the same page there, because I got a hard time trying to convince people that sentiment I just expressed there. So my question is this, okay? This is a personal question here. So how is it possible for a guy like me, the average Joe, to say I wanted to utilize, the Convergence protocol by listing, say, my home, right? We talk about real assets, right? So if I actually wanted to tokenize the ownership of my home, could I list that on the Convergence protocol, or how does that work?
So right now, that's not really immediately doable, simply because the legal structuring takes a bit of work, and for home value, it's hard to convince people that they need a fractional ownership of your home when they can kind of buy cheaper real estate as such. So we're really targeting more exclusive assets and opportunities that people don't have. But in the future, for sure, right? Like in the future, we're looking to tokenize all sorts of things, and home ownership, or even resorts, hotels, buildings. That's something we look at as a great opportunity. Can you tokenize and have access to equity to a hotel, but then you also get free membership? So this space is huge. We are starting at a very small and concentrated point, just so we can kind of get this started off, and then we'll expand to different verticals.
Love it. Thank you. Yeah, you got to take some baby steps first. Let's get this protocol going, and all that other cool stuff will come thereafter. I totally agree with you there. Oscar, we're actually going to take one more actual live question, if you don't mind, sir. Let me just see what we got here. Okay, so we have study pivot. Okay, so yeah, I just pretty much asked that. Credo, lost that one there. Okay, so Luz asked, what kind of partnerships do you have secured within the centralized system? And have you considered partnerships with the government for big infrastructure projects? And obviously, if you can't answer these things, I totally understand. Yeah, so that's good. That's one of the questions there. In regards to partnerships, what partnerships do you have lined up?
Yeah, so without disclosing specific names, we're going to have more announcements coming in the next few weeks. But there's a few kind of partnerships. So right now we're building on Ethereum, but then obviously we know the problem with the gas fees and the slow Ethereum, and so we're looking at more other chains, BSC, Moonbeam are some examples of things we're looking at. In terms of the protocol being a success, the tech is one angle, the product is another. We're looking to get partnerships with family offices, institutions that has allocation to those very interesting investment opportunities, and releasing those to our users.
Love it, love it. Did you say Ferrum is what you said?
Sorry?
Did I mishear? Did you say, what did you say, Ethereum or Ferrum? What did you say?
Ethereum.
Ethereum, sorry. Yeah, my apologies. Okay, and one last question here, Oscar, from our community member. Where is he? Ronnie. What is your plan or marketing strategy to convince both crypto and even non-crypto users to use Convergence platform? Well, Ronnie, this is his plan right here. It's me.
Yeah. I think it's a mixture of kind of getting our message up, getting our vision up, and finding a community that really sees the value of what we're building. I think a lot of people have been talking about security tokens for the last few years, but without a valid trading venue, it's just not very attractive to them. So getting that message out, and then help also building the community and the localized community, as I said earlier, and having the right partnerships with people will really kind of bring us to the next step. So we just started not so long ago, coming out of stealth, but we believe we have a strong start, and we're going to build on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for answering that. Now, my next question is something, again, another personal question of mine. Right now, lending and borrowing is becoming massive in the DeFi space, and I did see something about that on your website. Could you just elaborate on that? The lending and borrowing of, I believe it was the wrap security tokens. Is that the case?
Yep. So the issue with kind of bringing security tokens to as a collateral for lending and borrowing is that it's not easily liquidated, and so which is kind of where Convergence is going. How do we create liquidity for these security tokens so when people use it for its collateral, if they do default or if they want to do anything with it, there's liquidity supporting that mechanism. Because in the past, security tokens is not very tradable, and so this is where we think it'll work for digitally native coins and tokens, but how do we bring it to securities? And in the future, you're saying that you want to tokenize your house, you can still actually own 100% of it, you just don't sell tokens. But as long as there's liquidity for it, you can put it on certain platforms to use as collateral and borrow money to buy Bitcoin and whatnot.
So is it, I mean, I don't want to mention other projects here, but like similar to what Compound and ABA lending does, is this something where you could borrow against your asset?
Yes, absolutely. So actually, we are very open to kind of work with other DeFi protocols. I mean, everyone has their specialty in this field. And so as long as we create products that can be integrated into the system, it all connects. I think in the DeFi space, the beauty is that everyone can kind of work together on this instead of trying to dominate the space because the blockchain is so new, DeFi is so new. So like, a lot of people ask me, do you see this DeFi bubble? We see it's just beginning to kind of find potential of what it could be.
Like, I would say this much, right? Obviously, we're seeing a lot of institutional money coming in. Michael Saylor publicly speaking about how great Bitcoin is, and that's fine and everything, and yeah, that's cool. But I don't think they understand DeFi just yet, right? Kind of like 3 years ago, how they didn't really understand Bitcoin. They're on the outside looking in, and now today, everyone's like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's really good. It's a great treasury. I'm going to put 1% of my balance sheet there, and now you got all these other sort of corporations FOMOing in. However, I think, like, in my opinion, right, I said this many times, DeFi, to me, if you want to invest into the technology, I mean, Bitcoin's great, but it just sits there and does nothing from a technological standpoint, right? You can build on top of Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So DeFi, to me, has more value, although Bitcoin plays its role as well. But, to build the decentralized applications and to have businesses that's going to be running on top of these networks, to me, is so much more valuable. So I think that these institution guys, they don't know about this game as yet. But just like they didn't know about Bitcoin 3 years ago, 3 years later, they want to be sold on DeFi, or maybe, in a shorter time than that. So, yeah, I'm totally with you on that too, man.
Yeah, for sure. I think now we're always seeing kind of institution adopting Bitcoin, but we know they're slow because they have all these processes to go through, and it takes someone like kind of Elon just tweeting about it day and night, and getting all the corporates to do something, and he takes a great brave move and using Bitcoin as a treasury solution, and now all the CFOs and whatnot are saying, well, should we follow his lead or should we kind of be stuck in our ways? So really, I think the pandemic really pushed everyone to innovation, and we're looking at this space with a different light right now.
One thing I'll say about Elon Musk, hey man, I love the guy to death, but I gotta say, man, you gotta stop tweeting about freaking Dogecoin, bro. you gotta stop tweeting about something like cool, like a real project, dude. Like, I don't know, maybe he gets a good kick out of that, but it's all fun and games. Speaking of fun and games, we do have another question from another community member here who goes by the name of Pim Nanne rather. He asks, who is the main competitor of Convergence, and how do they distinguish themselves in this rapid changing market/industry? Very good question.
Right. So I think mostly we're combining the two, right? We're combining an ideal platform that like Poker Starter that we're going to be launching on, and also kind of Uniswap where it is AMM platform. So no one's really focusing on what we're doing, but we believe that someone else would kind of see the success and try to build on top of that or use existing infrastructure. And how we differentiate ourselves is really through finding the good opportunities, finding the good companies that people want to stick with, and people are not stuck to their platform because of how long it's been there. It's because of what they offer, right? And I think through kind of crypto exchange, you see the ones that always have great listing, great selections, wins in the long term, and we're aiming to do that as well.
Exactly. It's all about the long term, right? So you got to think ahead, right? You could come like something like comes into this space. Let's just think of yield farming. You come with yield farming, it just trends for a couple of months, and then it gets old, and you got to try to reinvent yourself. So you got to kind of like think ahead, right? Are you going to be here for the next 5, 10 years plus? And something what you guys are doing, it's almost like bridging that centralized to decentralized, the centralized industry to the decentralized industry. In a sense, it really is. And to me, I mean, like, I see that being here for a number of years, so totally agree with you there. So Oscar, let's talk about, this, we're talking about convergence, we're talking about the protocol, but how about the token? What exactly is the convergence protocol's functions that, people could utilize with?
Yeah, so Convergence token has three major functions that really serve the protocol. Number one, it has a governance feature, so what gets listed there, what's going to be protocol focused, what gets rewarded. You're seeing Dogecoin is now, does the community really want to incentivize people to put Dogecoin in an AMM pool so that they can trade for SpaceX, right? That's up to the community. The second part is that as the AMM platform, we're distributing some part of the fees, transaction fees, to the comp holders to incentivize them to have more capital and stake their comp tokens into the platform. And lastly, I think more importantly, is exclusive access to these deals. The offerings we're putting out, it will be, some parts of it will be for everyone, some parts of it only for comp holders. And that's a business model that we see will last a long time. Loyal users that have comp tokens will get rewarded by being in upfront and being able to access all these deals earlier.
Interesting. So, like, going back to what you said previously about Focus Starter, it's something in that sense. It's going to be like, really very, very interesting stuff. And again, this is access to. Is it also these tokenized real world assets and potentially crypto, or are you just focusing on the real world asset side of things being tokenized at the early stages?
Right now, we're focusing more on the real world assets side of things. If there is some sort of utility combination, NFTs that will work with us, we're happy to do that. We kind of expand on that vision of kind of having access interchangeable protocol to trade every sort of assets. But we're starting off, focus on what we think will give us the edge at the beginning.
Could you go in a little bit more detail in regards to the governance, if you don't mind? Like, what would people have say in if they were to hold this token?
Yes. Right. So as AMM, they can select, people when they stake it, they might get some comp tokens. What are the tokens that we want to incentivize, right? People want to swap, flow tokens for Dapper Labs. Can they do that? Vote on that. The governance on what kind of assets should the team be sourcing, right? For us, pre-IPO is something we truly think will take off, but then is there specific companies that they want us to target or even acquire and underwrite based on kind of the protocol level? So a lot of these decisions on how to improve as a community, as a DeFi project will come from the voting.
Love it. Okay, so I actually have one more question, and then we're gonna go take probably two more, and we will conclude it. Right? That sounds good to you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah. So no, really good answers. Well in depth and detailed, and they're on point. Like just come with the right things to say here, and very detailed as well, and that's important to me and my audience. I'm sure anybody who's coming across this replay could appreciate that as well. So thank you, very well spoken, Oscar. But let's talk about the phase in development. Where is this protocol? Is it like in the grassroots level? Is it like a testnet, beta, mainnet? Where are you guys at right now in terms of development? Because I mean, that's very important as well. But yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah. So with our protocol, there's three parts of it. There's the wrapper module, there's the AMM, and there's the pool option. The AMM is already on testnet level, so we're constantly testing it on the Ethereum. And for the product side, we're looking at launching the mainnet in Q3 of this year. But more importantly, I think, as I said, there's a the product component which we're technically working very hard on, and there's the business component where the partnership that we strike. And I think the aim is once we have the mainnet out, we will have three very attractive assets to be launched at the same time. And things that will be like crypto unicorns, something that a lot of DeFi users will have brand recognition with, some exotic tech assets and well-known brand names, or even some gaming companies, and maybe some gamers wants to have allocation or access to support whatever games they're playing. So it's about the pipeline of deals, and we will launch all of that at the same time just to make sure that the product is ready.
Very, very interesting stuff. So roughly, how long are we looking at here? Just roughly. You could say Q2, Q3, whatever you want. Like just a roughly.
Yeah, Q3 this year. Q3 this year.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Am I allowed to ask you this question here in regards to the actual listing of your token? When can people look forward to getting access, or if they're interested in this project, they heard after this live stream and they're super excited, when can they actually scoop up some of the CONV tokens on Uniswap?
Yeah. So our plans is to be on Polkadot end of March, and listing on Uniswap at first, and then future listing.
Sorry, on Polkastarter, you mean? Polkastarter, is it?
Sorry, Polkastarter.
Sorry, gotcha.
Polkastarter for our public sale, and then Uniswap for our launch.
Cool. So that's in about maybe 3 weeks then.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting for us, and a lot to be done. But at the same time, we want to keep the community updated on what we're doing. We're constantly, informing them, giving them updates. So, pay notice to our announcement page and a Telegram channel, and we'll have new things going on there every day.
No, I'll definitely be following you guys closely, and any sort of updates or news that comes out, I'll be updating my community and the rest of the cryptoverse on Twitter and even on my YouTube channel as well. Now let's just take 1 or 2 more questions here, and we'll wrap things up. Okay, Oscar, that's fine with you. Do you got time?
Yeah, all good. All good.
Okay, cool. Let me just see what we got here. All right, so wow, this chat's going crazy. We do have we got 341 people here, and they love the Polkastarter aspect. What we got here? Who is that? That is CT5000, Polkastarter, exclamation mark, cool. Okay, is there any other, since we're talking about that, is there any other sort of platforms you're looking at in terms of the public launch? Or is it just Polkastarter?
No, it's just Polkastarter for now, I think.
Okay.
The team there is great, so we're kind of working closely with them to make sure that we get everything right. I see a lot of platforms doing dual or triple IDO. I think the projects, as long as they're good, they don't need so much exposure, and I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I would just give it from my experience, it's great to also Polkastarter is great, yeah. But Duckstarter, man, you can't. Those guys do a really good job as well. So you're gonna get more people, right? Eyes on the project. That's just my opinion. But hey, yeah, you can't go wrong with Polkastarter or Duckstarter. And best case scenario, just go with both. You get more widespread. So that's my opinion there, my 2 cents. Okay. Yeah. So what we got here? Ronnie says great partnership on public launch. Crypto Hodl says great work, guys. These guys are going crazy. Okay, love you, TCL. Sounds like a really good project. Everybody's excited here, Oscar. Everybody really likes what they hear, and I just want to really thank you for coming on board here, making this happen. And we do actually have one question here, which is from Avijit Panwar. Okay, no, sorry. Crypto Geek. How will extreme changes in valuations or volumes, 5x or 10x, impact their strategy? I don't really understand that myself. Do you understand that question? We can go to the next one here. Hold on. What is your strategy to showcase and bring awareness to the masses about the product? You already answered that. Sharal asks, can you elaborate in further detail what is meant by unforeseen liquidity? Okay, good question. And why this problem needs to be solved using automated market maker bots. Did you say? Is he putting words in my mouth there, Oscar? Or did you say that?
No, that's actually a really good question.
It is.
I'm happy that someone asked that. Yeah. So in the private market, private shares are traded as if there's a ladder. There's round A, round B, and the price just moves from 1A to B. There's no curve involved. They just kind of set the valuation and trading price. And so brokers, from the traditional finance space, they just kind of mark up or mark down, take a cut. So it's very hard to transact these deals. On the flip side, what the beauty of AMM is that it's always traded at 24/7. There's always a price. So whenever something happens in the real world, it affects people's kind of appetite for this asset, and it does change. So what we find is that there will be divergence between the digital asset prices on Convergence versus the real world prices that's traded. And hopefully, I think giving liquidity this space would give us a liquidity premium that is traded on beyond what the institutional players are trading at. And at some point in the future, as I said, the liquidity event, that price will then become aligned because now you know exactly what the stock is worth in the stock market and you can liquidate it. And that's kind of where the name convergence comes from. The two price converges at some point, and then it becomes one. And that's also why we're targeting the alternative asset space, because those are very liquid and we want to make them tradable, and DeFi is kind of a great way to kind of put it all together.
Yeah, no, really good explanation there, man. So I still believe the traditional world they don't even understand what an ALM is, automated market maker, right? So a lot of people ask me which YouTubers, crypto YouTubers I watch, and I just tell them I don't watch any. But who I do watch is Robert Kiyosaki. And he was talking about crypto. Somebody was explaining to him DeFi, and by the way, he says he holds Polkadot tokens, so that blew my mind. Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, he's the OG. And they're explaining to him what AMM is, and he was just lost, right? This whole notion of it's like a vast liquidity pool where you can just dip your hand in and dip your hand out. You don't have to say, hey, I want to buy something. You got it? Yeah, I'm selling it. How much you want? It's none of that. It's there for anybody to get immediate access to. And don't get me wrong, I have all the respect in the world for him, and I learned a lot from him. But the old school guys, they're finding a very hard time to catch on to this. So we need protocols like Convergence, in other words, is what I'm saying. And with that being said, the interview is done. I'm going to just say my conclusion here, and we're going to carry on. And Oscar, please do send my my kind regards to Phil, please. Phil, we had a talk there, and Phil's a pretty cool guy. I wish he could have been on the show too, but it is what it is. But just tell him I said hello.
Yeah, for sure. We'll ask him to come on next time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do an update.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's do an update. Okay, so I'm going to say my conclusion, and we end it there. Well, there you go. There you have it, Cryptoverse. Convergence will be tokenizing real-world assets that aren't synthetics. Yeah, you heard that right. The Convergence protocol will be the first to make real-world assets exposure interchangeable within the DeFi space by connecting wrapped security tokens, and frankly, there's currently no platform that offers such things and these types of opportunities, along with the liquidity that goes with it. Furthermore, this protocol will make real-world assets such as securities much more transparent. This allows the inclusion of all investors alike, rather, because it will be utilizing the most disruptive technology we know as the blockchain. So you know what? There really isn't much left to say other than, oh wait, hold on. There actually is one last thing to say, Oscar, and this is for you, buddy. Please tell the lovely, beautiful viewers, what lifestyle are you living, man?
I'm living the crypto lifestyle.
There we go! And we're done. Thank you, Oscar, for your time, brother. And I do look forward to covering Convergence.
Yeah, great coming on this interview. Thanks.
Thank you.